I was remiss in not pointing out that our brochures are also available, and these right now reflect cash donations, but we will be updating those soon. And they are available at our table on the boards. But I also want to thank Steve and Heritage, Steve Ivey and his whole team at Heritage, because we came up with a concept, wrote these, but they designed them and they print these and they underwrite the entire cost for these. And we have been distributing these at shows in various places where we're speaking throughout the year, and they have been a tremendous help to us every time that we needed brochures and materials available to communicate our story. If you don't have a copy of this, there's some extras up here at our table, and there are also extras at the table on the boards. I would invite you to pick up a copy, not only because it has the donation information, but it has the basic story of what counterfeiting is and what the threat to our marketplace. So I would invite you to take along a couple of those and take them back to your localities if you have not seen that before.
Or at least take back this part.
Yeah. But I can't say enough of how much the Heritage team, the entire team, has helped us on an ongoing basis, week to week throughout the year. Couple of sessions yesterday, we were doing updates, and I was sitting actually at the second session yesterday, and it struck me that it had been exactly 363 days since we had launched the task force. We had a one-sentence vision and a mission statement at that point. And we were looking at our educational mission would be to educate and engage law enforcement to help them do their jobs better. And that's kind of a one-line or one-sentence summary, very quick snapshot of where we were this time last year. We organized in the task force a steering committee that is an overall governance structure for us, and then each member of the steering committee works with a particular work group. We started with an 11-member steering committee, and we started with 8 work groups. We now have 13 members on that steering committee, and we will be organizing our 13th work group within the next 2 weeks. It's exciting to us that the 13th work group will include sovereign mints. We have, through federal law enforcement and through our contacts within the business community, numismatics and also some of the related fields, realized that our counterparts in Europe face the exact problems that we are facing, and they called out to us and said, we need help. How are you doing it? And we said, well, are you talking with Interpol? And they said, yes, we talked to them, but they're interested in the paper money. They're not doing coins. They're not investigating. So that's part of the reason that the sovereign mints are very interested in what we're doing and joining us, so that our mission is going to broaden beyond U.S. borders very quickly. The first 2 mints to step forward and will take a leadership role within the sovereign mint group is the Royal Canadian Mint and the Austrian Mint. We fully expect the mints that produce the major bullion coins to very quickly join that group. They are very anxious to share and also point out some of the problems. As you know, the Royal Canadian Mint has been addressing counterfeits through very high-tech technology. In recent years, some of the other mints have too. Others are just beginning. The U.S. Mint openly admitted when we met with them in November that they have had no research and development for 8 years. And they thought they had no counterfeiting problems. That's simply the mindset, and that's where they are. We are very optimistic that once David Ryder is confirmed as director of the next director of the U.S. Mint, that will change very quickly. Some of you might remember Mr. Ryder. He served for about 18 months at the end of Bush 43. No, I'm sorry, Bush 41. George H.W. Bush, yes. And he actually preceded Philip Diehl, and they worked together for a short period of time. So he is far advanced in most mint directors. Most are political appointees and have no clue what the U.S. Mint does. I know this from personal experience because I got the call from at least 2 mint directors. I won't say their names in public. Somebody told them to call CoinWorld to find out what the U.S. Mint does. They had been nominated by the President of the United States, and they didn't know what this agency was, and they were told that we could help them understand it. And we did. We provided a lot of information. But the fact that we will have a person coming in who knows what the agency is, has been there, who understands what's going on, is a huge plus. But that's not as big as the fact that when David Ryder left the U.S. Mint, he went into high security technology. He has 25 years of experience, not only in paper money, but the last 10 years dealing with counterfeiting technology related to metals, coins, as well as other metallic objects. That is a huge plus for everybody involved in numismatics, to have somebody at the helm who recognizes that there is a problem. He stated that anti-counterfeiting technology would be a priority at his nomination hearing. He got unanimous consent, or he got unanimous approval in the Senate Banking Committee. It was moved to the consent calendar, and we were hoping that he in fact would be sworn in as Mint Director before Christmas. But Senator Rand Paul put a hold on it. He wanted an audit of the Fed. We convinced his staff that maybe he should put a hold on somebody else. That please let us get somebody in the Mint, that there are some very dire things that need to be done. And so he released it within about 3 days. We thought we were sailing free. Actually, Paul Joltz alerted me to the fact that at CoinWorld they were following this too, that Senator Grassley from Iowa had placed a hold, and he even put notes that he had nothing personally against Mr. Ryder and his one other Treasury nominee, but he had sent a letter to the Treasury and he had not had a response. When we began to poke around and try to figure out why he didn't get a response, he had written a letter to an undersecretary, and actually the office is vacant. There hasn't even been a nominee. So it's somewhere sitting on somebody's desk in Treasury and has probably been there for a month. And so we're hoping that Senator Grassley will perhaps focus his anger elsewhere and put a hold on somebody else and let Mr. Ryder through so he can get to work. It's very important. If we have somebody from Iowa here, representatives and senators always respond to constituents. So if you know Senator Grassley, or if you live in Iowa, please make a call or send a letter pronto and ask him to release that hold. By the way, one of the Mint's major suppliers of planchets is located in the state of Iowa, so he does know what the U.S. Mint is. I know Senator Grassley does, because I've had those conversations with him. But
Has anybody told him that the person he wrote the letter to doesn't exist?
I hope that he understands that by now. Those are some recent developments that are coming into play for us. And I was telling Kathy and Philip when Mr. Ryder was nominated, and we began to understand his background a little deeper, somehow the stars are aligning. This is a plus that we could not have dreamed of 363 days ago.
Right. Gosh.
So all of the work we began in the steering committee and the work groups addressing specific topics. We have groups that are one group that is researching equipment, the best type of equipment that could be used in a practical manner by dealers and collectors. We will soon have that evaluation out. And the one thing that we have found is nothing is foolproof. There's some good equipment out there that will help you maybe 90% of the time. Some are less than 90%, but you cannot bank on any one specific piece of equipment that we are aware of at this point in time is positively identifying precious metals coins specifically. And of course, if you've seen any of the counterfeits, the older coins, the collector market, those are the correct width, the diameter is correct, the weight is correct, often the specific gravity is correct, and you will see one little design element, maybe the mint mark is in the wrong place, there is a die crack that shouldn't be there, or you see it replicated in places that you know that it's just not right. But if you don't know those diagnostics, you will miss it. If any of you were in the P&G seminar yesterday, I was sitting there with dealers who've been in business 35 and 40 years saying, oh my, I would have missed this. I didn't know this was out there. Over and over, they had 100 coins that we were looking at. And it gives you some appreciation for the sophistication and how deceptive the material has become over the last 3 years particularly. So as we go forward in our work groups, we have a robust education program. We have begun working with Homeland Security and Customs and Border Protection. They have 35 offices or centers within the United States where they have teams of inspectors. And we will be developing a basic training program for them. It happens that the director of the regional office in Memphis is also the head of education for the entire agency, and we've been working directly with her. They have very specific requests of information that they want their people to know. And so that is a basic component. We will also be developing components for local and state and other federal agencies. Something as simple as how to inventory coins for a case. How to investigate a numismatic crime. We are lucky in that we have, as members of our task force, 2 people who are seasoned in law enforcement. And they are actually will be leading the effort to develop those components of our educational programs. Some of them will take the form of video, others will be PowerPoint that we can replicate. Some will be with supplying educational materials to supplement that. We're also exceedingly lucky that one member of our task force, who happens to be a specialist in ancient coins, but spent 20 years as a producer in television and documentary films. And she's going to be working with the education component in the video productions. So we have a deep talent. We have another group that's currently reviewing laws and regulations. We happen to have 5 lawyers within our group that are going through federal laws and state laws and trying to spot areas that perhaps changes in the laws would help us, or regulations, or develop some model language for local. And a lot of people don't understand that the federal counterfeiting laws are enforced by federal law enforcement. If your local police encounters counterfeiting, they will prosecute under their local laws. And chances are they will go under fraud statutes rather than counterfeiting. Same might be true for a state law or state attorney generals. They're going under state laws, and you will find conflicts within local ordinances and state ordinances, and they're completely different from federal statutes. Part of our work has been to put the federal agencies in contact with each other. For instance, Customs and Border Protection has a section of Title 18 in which they are allowed to confiscate material and hold it. We have put together a network of experts. We currently have 92 within the task force throughout the country. If law enforcement, whether it's federal, local, or state, sees or working in an investigation situation and they believe they have counterfeits, we can put them in contact with a local person who can either come to their offices or they can take the material to their premises, and they will go through and identify the genuine from the counterfeit material. We now have 11 major cases that we have provided assistance with. One of our members has spent more than 5 days, 5 long hour days, 7, 8 hours a day going through material of a major case. There has been more than 1,000 items seized in that particular case. Going through and preparing the material and helping the officers do the inventory. And as a result of our help, we have talked to them about making some of this material available to us for education purposes. When we said to them, okay, what are you going to do with this material? And they said, well, after they think this particular person is going to plead guilty and they don't have to go to court, as soon as that happens, we're going to destroy it all. And we said, oh no, don't destroy it. Please work with us. This is wonderful educational material that we can use. And I had always had the problem of holding counterfeit material because it is illegal for you and I to hold and pass in any way counterfeit material. And they said, well, we will make a loan to you. And so as a part of that process, during the next year, we hope to develop educational exhibits and have that educational exhibit at the major shows. If everything works out, it will premiere at the Central States Show. And this will give people an idea of the type of material that is being counterfeited. and also the quality of the counterfeits. That all of the material that you will see in this exhibit has been confiscated since our task force started working. And
Are any of the coins in counterfeit slabs?
yes, we've seen counterfeits of all the slabs. You see coins in the slabs, you see just the slabs, and you see the certs. I got a picture about 10 days ago from one of the regional centers, and they had intercepted rolls of certs, inserts, from one of the grading services coming out of Hong Kong, and this person was fully equipped to take any coins he wanted and to slab them, and they're really sophisticated. Of course, we've been working with the grading services. When we get a case like that, we put law enforcement directly in touch with the grading services. So part of our role has been to work agency to agency, and part of the education, and as they understand the help that we're providing them, then they are willing to help us as we put together the educational materials and exhibits and training for both law enforcement. We will also have training for dealers, and we intend to develop instructional materials that can be used to educate the public, the collecting public. We see a use for that at the national shows and regional shows, but more importantly, we'd also like to develop materials that we can provide to local clubs. So that is kind of a summary of going back and picking up some of the things that we have been working through in the last year and how we will be going forward. Now, I did not mention every work group. I could sit here for 3 hours if I got into details. No. If I got into detail of each group. One of the things, and there are several of the people from the task force sitting here with us, I can't thank these people enough. They have devoted hours and hours, in some cases, of time and work, not only with law enforcement agencies, but with the task force itself. And their knowledge, the breadth of knowledge within our task force is simply amazing. And we couldn't begin to pay for the knowledge and the time. But they all understand what our mission is, they're dedicated to it, and we believe that we will make significant progress this year. That's what we're looking at. We have lots of high hopes, and if you feel inclined to donate, we certainly appreciate your help. So we will entertain, I think the four of us here would entertain any questions that you might have.
The donated coin auctions, will there be a buyer's premium? And if so, will that buyer's premium also go to the task force?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I believe in effect, we get 120%.
Correct.
Instead of, I said 100% of what the coin sells for.
100%.
So the
all
hammer plus 20.
Correct.
Okay.
Beth, I have a question for you.
Okay.
The Mint, you mentioned this in your opening remarks. The Mint, in its response to Congressman Frank Lucas's letter, said that they were unaware of, or they had not received any complaints about U.S. Mint coins being counterfeited. What is your experience about that? And what have you heard from others? And does it include recent Mint products that are being counterfeited?
Well, we had a meeting with senior Mint staff on November 9th, and we took counterfeit material with us. And we also showed them pictures. We spent about an hour in briefing. That was before they responded. So to claim they had no knowledge was really kind of beyond our belief. But one of the things that was pointed out to me very quickly, and I wish I had the presence of mind to have included this in our response. The first thing the head of Customs and Border Protection kind of laughed, and he said, well, how does one complain to the United States Mint if you find a counterfeit? Do they have a complaint procedure or method? And I said, you're right, they don't have it. That's one of the things that we will be discussing with Mr. Ryder right off the bat. Try to call the U.S. Mint and ask them or tell them that you are in possession of a counterfeit of one of their coins and what should you do with it. And trust me, you more likely get into Fort Knox before you get anybody at the U.S. Mint to answer your question. That's a whole area that, by the way, we're addressing, is what happens when somebody walks into a dealer's shop, offers a counterfeit, because the dealer has no legal authority to take possession of that coin. He can tell them it's counterfeit, but he can't buy it or sell it or even take possession of it. We are looking at, our legal group and one other group is looking at, can we develop a process, procedure, or something so that we can take this material out of the market? And then what happens to it? You know, when the Mint had its own refinery, back when it was striking coins out of precious metals for circulation, you could in fact take not altered, but bent coins or heavily circulated coins, and you could take it to the Mint and exchange it for good silver. The same way as when the mints first started in the gold mining areas, you could take your gold dust and actually have the Mint make gold coins for you. You could get it back in gold coinage. That doesn't happen, but it's still on the books. It's still law. So I had this grand vision. I woke up one morning about 5 thinking, what would happen if we organized a march to Washington with people with bag of counterfeit coins and standing at U.S. Mint headquarters saying, I have counterfeit coins, please redeem the counterfeit coins for good coins because the U.S. Mint should be protecting its coins. I kind of thought about that, and then it got to be cold weather.
How many people what's the minimum number of people in a march?
I don't know. But I tell you, I had that kind of vision in my head because we put our information and our contact information, and I will get at least 3 to 4 calls a week from dealers or sometimes collectors saying, I have counterfeit coins, what do I do with them? And then I spend time talking with the agencies, and I ask them the same thing. I ask Secret Service, okay, what do they do with these? The law says they should turn them into you. Do you have a mechanism that you will seize the coins? Well, they can take them to an agent. How do they find an agent? There are all kinds of questions like this that we're going to be going forward. I would like to be able to come back to you within 6 months or a year and say, we have a procedure worked out that is blessed either by law or regulations that something can happen to these counterfeits and that we can begin to take them off the market. But right now, we have an unholy mess out there that nobody pays attention to or has taken any responsibility for. So those are the kinds of things that our task force and the discussions are centering on these days. We have about 3 more minutes because there are some things that are going to be in this room later.
I would think if you were going to try and do the counterfeit, I assume those are probably good gold or silver, just counterfeit coins. That would probably be Philadelphia would be the place to go. Not the headquarters is small and doesn't have any facilities. Technically, it would be the mint in Philadelphia that would originally used to do that kind of work. I don't know if they've done it since 1860, but.
We'll be in Philadelphia this summer.
Yeah.
That might be our March.
It's only a mile from the convention center.
There you go. Hey,
Dana can organize it.
good idea. We'll work on that because, yeah, you're right that certainly Philadelphia did accept them. I know the San Francisco Mint did also in the case of the gold coins. But there is no procedure. That procedure, that complaint procedure or recapture procedure has to come out of headquarters. Philadelphia can't do anything until they get the okay or they get the directive from Washington.
Show up at the director's office.
Yeah, we should just show up in the lobby in Philadelphia and say we're not gonna leave until you.
Right. That's a good one.
Believe you me, if we don't get some cooperation and some cooperation fairly soon, once we get a director in, we might be calling the troops and saying we're doing a march on the Philadelphia Mint.
Or sit in.
Or sit in. Or bring your bag.
Yeah.
It won't be your own lunch, bring your coins. So with that, we really appreciate your attendance, and if you have ideas, if you see problems out there, please let us know. We don't pretend to have all the answers. We have a lot of questions. We have some good minds thinking about these things, but I'm sure there are things that we are not aware of, and if you have some ideas, you think about some of these things, please contact us. You can find us through the website, ICTA Online, and all of our contact information is there. So we really appreciate your coming, and again, we appreciate so much Heritage's cooperation and support on the auctions, and we thank Steve.
Very welcome.
Okay?